your agenda. Going down on the revenue side, we received $1,050 of a land lease. That was for leasing lands at Tryon to R&R Farms for growing some crops. We received a reimbursement from Verio Health in the amount shown there. We received a payment from Johnstown Renewables, which included in that the fee to the IDA for terminating the lease and a payment, an amount to pay for legal fees. We also received the application fee from Nexus Renewables of $980. It was $980, because they submitted $1,000, which is the application fee, but they did it electronically and the bank charged a $20 processing fee. And investment earnings of $161.81 for the month. On the expenditure side, we had salaries and insurances for the executive director and the CFO. We had a payment of legal fees for Johnstown Renewables of $530, which came out of that revenue that I mentioned up above. And then there were payments for Tryon, which included 3 items: paying of Verio's electricity bill, second, an interim payment for mowing to Greenscapes, and the third one was the emergency work on the sewer system that you guys authorized at the last meeting that actually is showing up on this month's budget report. And then the last one was a $140 payment to the county clerk, which was the fee for recording the termination of lease. And again, that came out of the revenue that Johnstown Renewables sent to us. So there was no cost to the IDA for that. Johnstown Renewables sent us all the revenue for that, but we had to pay that bill. So that would be it for this month's budget report. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, would someone make a motion to that budget report be accepted?
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second you, Jim. This is Todd.
Okay. Okay, let's take a roll call vote on approving the budget report. We'll go in reverse. Tim Munn.
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Jane Kelly.
Aye.
Todd Rulison.
Aye.
Joe Semyon.
Aye.
Dave Demore.
Aye.
Okay, under committee reports, monthly bank reconciliations. Mike Fitzgerald had the honor this month. Mike, how did you, what'd you find?
I found that all the accounts were in order and everything was reconciled.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. CRG, Fulton County reports. John Blackman is not present here today, so we don't have a report from the county.
Here.
Oh, John, you are. I'm sorry. I didn't see you come on.
You didn't
John,
look
do you
up
have
the
a
screen.
report from the Board of Supervisors meeting?
It's rather short. The first resolution, of course, was in memory of our fellow supervisor, Richard Handy, who passed away last month. Then most of that had to do with COVID-19. We've increased expenses for COVID-19 expenses. Did pass a resolution on cell towers inside of the Adirondack Park Agency, asking for more towers. They can be 10 to 20 feet above the tree line or other structures. Since a lot of the projects at FMCC are not getting any matching funds from the state, some of those funds are being redirected toward other things. So like the financial center is not getting their share from the New York State. So things are being done a little differently there in the financial classroom. And we are still spending the $61,807 for tourism in the in the county, even though we're not going to get matching funds from the state right now. Whether we do in the future, we don't know yet. So that basically is it.
Jen? Greg, anything from the CRG?
Rather than, I just as soon not have to read through that. Everyone has a copy of our report for the month. Was there anything in particular that you folks want to discuss rather than bore everyone with reading the whole thing?
Just give us a couple of highlights, Greg.
You're talking about Tryon. We do have a couple of persons interested in the Midas building and the maintenance building that Ron has been working with. He's still got a couple of ongoing folks that are interested in looking for 30,000 square foot spaces. I'm trying to scroll through this while I talk to you. We've done a lot with the micro enterprise grants this year. A couple of them keep changing them, so we keep reissuing checks. But a lot of folks doing a lot of good things around the county with small businesses. We're hoping, and it's kind of interesting. One of the reports yesterday was, or one of the resolutions we did yesterday was for the chamber to do a outdoor palooza over at the visitor center, and hopefully Sack and Dog Brewing will be up and running when that goes in September. So that's one of the folks that we've done loans for. They've got the coming soon sign out there, but hopefully they'll get up and running. But other than that, all of our marketing efforts are ongoing. And if anybody's got any questions, I'd be glad to do my best to answer them.
Yeah, Greg, I sent Ron an email this morning advising him that we've actually received an offer on one of those buildings at Tryon that we're going to discuss in executive today.
Good.
And so encouraged him to, if those folks he's been talking with do have an interest, to try to get something into us so that we could have it before a decision is made to sell it to somebody.
Good. So
Okay.
it looks like even though it's about a year late, getting that electric upgraded out there was right on time.
Yes. Yes. Good. It ended up being good timing. So any questions of Greg?
No, thank you, Greg.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on to old business. Our Johnstown Renewables project, hopefully a final update. At your last meeting, you adopted a resolution that agreed to a final payment that Johnstown Renewables should have made in terms of how much sales tax they had to pay back. And you authorized the filing of that payment and an ST-45 form to Taxation and Finance. Subsequent to that meeting, Kara sent that letter with the check that was received from Johnstown Renewables. So hopefully that completes our obligations for recapturing sales tax revenues. The termination of lease agreement has been executed. The fee of $3,273.90 as the lease termination fee has been received. As we reported in the budget report, a payment was received from Johnstown Renewables to cover the IDA's legal fees on the Johnstown Renewables project, and that payment has been sent to Kara's firm. And so, Kara, is there anything else to add, or are we finally at the end of this long endeavor?
I think we are. Yes, that pretty much wraps it up. We got all the documents to terminate the lease. The lease is back, signed from the chairman of the IDA and Johnstown Renewables. So that's been sent off to the county filing. That's pretty much the last step. Everything was submitted to Tax and Finance. I don't anticipate we hear back from them. So I think that's a wrap on that particular project.
Good.
I'm so disappointed. You won't see it anymore on our reports.
Yes. And just so you're aware, Scott gave a report to the Economic Development Committee last month regarding the efforts of the IDA board to recapture those sales tax revenues, and to advise the committee that the IDA has spent a great deal of time and effort working on that, and the end result was that the county is eventually going to receive $40-some thousand of additional sales tax revenues back because of the IDA's efforts. So we thought it was important that the committee be aware of the arduous efforts that the board has put forth over the last year to recapture those sales tax revenues. And I know the committee was appreciative of those efforts. So, all righty. Any other questions on this saga?
Yeah, Jim, that building, who actually owns that? Is that something that?
Johnstown Renewable still owns the building. They have made all their tax payments. They are current on all property taxes. And so they still own it and are trying to sell it, right? Okay. And I know they have shown it to a few folks, but nothing has been consummated yet.
Okay.
Okay.
It'd be great if someone bought that and came in with something.
Oh, it'd be great. So. All righty, moving on. Regarding the IDA website, unfortunately, I have no update to report on that. We haven't worked on the website in the last few weeks. We actually have our next conference call with Betsy on Thursday. With Cushman Wakefield, as I mentioned, we have received an offer. We're going to talk about that in executive. And Cushman Wakefield is working daily to try and market that those buildings and those properties. Next is the Tryon Electric project. At your last meeting, I reported that all of the work had been completed and that the cutover to the new electric system was scheduled for June 28th. Unfortunately, that did not happen. National Grid canceled that cutover. That cutover was rescheduled for today. And so literally as we speak, that cutover to the new electric system is being worked on right now. And so hopefully there are no issues or problems develop. And by the end of the today, we could now officially say we're out of the electric service business at Tryon. Okay, any questions on that? Very good. All right, moving on to the lands on the south side of County Road 107. As you know, the IDA board has had that property listed with Arlene Sitterly, Coldwell Banker, for some time now. At your last meeting, you agreed to meet with Mr. Huckins and Dr. Verma to discuss their revised proposal. And subsequent to that, the meeting was held with those two gentlemen, as well as Dr. Verma's wife, Bajit. Their plan for the property includes creating a business to manufacture and distribute probiotics that Dr. Verma has a patent on, to promote organic farming and use the site as a hub for selling organic farm-to-table products, and to potentially relocate an existing business to the site. We had asked Dave Huckins and Dr. Verma to prepare a more detailed business plan that you folks had mentioned as something you wanted to see. That business plan was submitted and was attached to your agenda following the budget report. Dave Huckins and Dr. Verma's offer is for $90,000. And I know Dave has been doing a lot of work, doing due diligence in terms of having discussions with Gloversville Water Department, with National Grid regarding gas and electric and others. So with that, Dave, are you still here? Dave Huckins?
Yeah.
Could you take a few minutes and just go through this revised or this updated business plan and kind of explain to IDA board members what your plan and vision is for this property?
Well, we want to salvage as much of what is usable at the site. It appears the first two buildings are on the top of the hill are salvageable. We would change, the facades in the front so that, the stonework isn't there. It's just a bad design for flat roofs on the entrance to those two buildings. The other buildings I think are too far gone. Those probably are going to need to be torn down. But the slabs could definitely, the infrastructure in the slabs could be reused. We're not interested in creating, new infrastructure that's not needed, which would just delay, would cost money and delay time. But we want to get set up, right away in the first two buildings on the top of the hill, get the lavatory set up for, testing and manufacturing the probiotic capsules, and starting to work with local farmers to encourage them to grow organic, specifically dairy farmers that may want to change their business plan a little bit. And, organic farming is a little more expensive, but, it's something that we believe in and are passionate about. Dr. Verma, he's a surgeon, and operates on a lot of people who have colon cancer, and he definitely believes in healthy organic food and medicine, and we think we're on the right track to start testing and creating healthy food and medicine at that site. As far as due diligence, the Gloversville Water Department, was very helpful. They came out, they did connect water to the first two buildings. That was great. National Grid, definitely, they marked out the gas immediately, so we know where all that is. There's still questions about the road, and I did talk to Supervisor Fagan about briefly about the road maintenance, and I did order a meter for the site. I'm waiting to hear back from two planners from National Grid to talk to us about how we get a meter at a transformer on the site. And I guess the only other question is the sewer. As far as we did have a discussion about the sewer district, and we would own, my understanding is we would own the pump station. Everything's gravity fed down to that pump station. We would have to maintain the pump station and, everything inside of it. And then the sewer district would own the line from that pump station over to the other side of the road. Is that how am I understanding it correctly, Jim, about the sewer?
Yes, it is, Dave. That's what has been discussed as part of the county's efforts to create a sewer district out there. The sewer district would own the force main from that pump station that would go across the street and tie into the existing pump station that services Triumph. And then you would be responsible for purchasing and installing pumps, grinder pumps, or whatever that would be needed to transmit that whatever wastewater you would generate on that side of the street across the street to that other pump station. Okay?
Okay.
Any questions of Dave from IDA members?
Yeah, Jim, I've got a question. Dave Demore here.
Hmm?
Dave, in your proposal, you're identifying, where did I see it? 15 proposed employees. And I think you're indicating that they would be part-time to start. So can you boil that down to like what a full-time equivalent would be for your employment projections?
Full-time for 15 people, or for how many? I mean, how many are full-time and how many are part-time?
Well, no, I mean, you're basically saying 15 part-time employees. So looking from the point of view of if you consolidated that into the number of employees that it would take to run full-time, to run the operation, how many full-time employees would it take to do it versus, the number of part-time employees that you're proposing?
Well, I think there's a seasonal worker component to that. So it's hard to measure, so things would ramp up, during the growing season, the outdoor growing season.
I see. Okay.
So, I think when he said part-time, he means, there's going to be, seasonal workers during the growing season.
Okay.
And then there'll be, full-time people in the lab. So, I mean, he pictures basically working with farmers to grow organic, that would ramp up during the growing season, make sure, things are getting harvested in a clean manner. There can't be any contamination of crops.
Yep.
And then, there's going to be testing going on, how the crops make it, from the farm to the lab. There's got to be a safe manner of how that happens, from the farm to the lab.
So there's a specific protocol you guys will have to follow to be able to use that moniker of organic farm sourced material, right? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, there's probably going to be about 3 years of losses with this business to getting set up. There's significant startup cost. So we're probably looking at about a 3-year window of no profits to get set up, and part of that is working with farmers to encourage them to grow organic and go through the steps of getting certified as organic. My understanding is you don't have to take your whole farm and convert the whole farm to organic, but you have to identify and isolate certain acreage that will be organic with no contaminants, and there's a process and a time restraint to getting certified.
And you've got farm partners ready to go?
We've talked to, I mean, the general response is very positive, from farmers that we've talked to, that, they're wide, with what's going on in the dairy industry right now, their ears are wide open, as far as how they can convert, over to a different model. They're willing to listen, and everyone's changing. Every farmer we've talked to is definitely open to changing their business model, and especially if they're going to get, some type of help to do that.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Tim Munn here. You mentioned when we met out at the site that you guys have, I think, cash on hand to purchase the property. In your business plan, you're mentioning about $150,000 estimate to acquire machinery, and then another $150,000 for additional improvements. Are those funds that you're in the process of trying to borrow, or time frame wise, how quickly do you think you'd have those funds to make the improvements that you want to make to the property?
We already have access to about $650,000 right now, and we're also in talks with 2 minority equity partners who would be coming in with other cash. So on hand we have about $650 right now. And like I said, we're in talks with 2 other equity partners. Just a little background, Dr. Verma was involved in a surgery center back in Connecticut that he was a minority equity partner in. That was sold, that the surgery center in Connecticut was sold to a large firm. And, I think, Mr. or Dr. Verma, Dr. Verma, I call him Chris. He was a minority owner. He got a significant payout from the buyer of that surgery center, but he also had partners who are also surgeons in Connecticut who were partners who were part of that buyout. So, we have a formula for how we would bring in new capital, from minority equity partners.
Okay.
Dave, what crops would you anticipate you guys being working with? Are there particular ones that you'd be focusing on?
I don't want to, the patent the probiotic is confidential as far as the 14 different, I can tell you that it's 14 different crops. I'd rather talk to Dr. Verma about that before,
Fair enough.
I respond to that, but, it may, it may include CBD as one of them, one out of the 14. So, obviously the attitude towards those crops are changing dramatically, in the last few years.
What's kind of your timeline if all goes well?
For
getting the probiotic business up and running?
Well, we would, we'd be looking sometime towards, this time next year to be producing capsules. There's a process to putting the 14 different organic crops, in the capsules. So we'd be looking, to have a product ready to sell, within 12 months.
Mm-hmm. Okay, does anyone have any other questions of Dave? Kara, I sent you the draft purchase contract that we received for that. How did that look from your standpoint?
The contract itself, it seemed, I didn't have any concerns with the contract as drafted. There was just a couple of comments I had with respect to how the board wanted to handle it from a matter with a couple of the transactional items, like specifics about transfer tax and costs and things like that. I don't know, do you want me to discuss that now, or did you want to do that?
Yes.
And exactly. Okay. So just one of the couple of comments I had were that the contract indicates that the seller is responsible for the cost of the title update. And that's standard practice in Fulton County, particularly in a residential transaction. You could agree to provide this and pay for this expense, or you could request an amendment to the contract to transfer this cost to the buyer. I estimate that would be about $500. The other item is the cost of transfer tax. In some instances, you have asked the buyer to cover this expense. In this case, that cost is $365. In section 10 of the contract, it's indicated that the buyer would like the property to be able to be used as a correctional facility. I think this is just a typo that should be amended because clearly that's not their proposal. Maybe it's just the current use that it's listed, which became that way. I'm not sure how you want to handle legal fees. And I spoke with Jim. We reviewed your property disposition policy, and this would fall outside of the threshold of the 90-day notice to the state. So those are really my comments. As far as the form of the contract, it's pretty standard as far as the region. So I didn't have any concerns there.
So the two fees, the title update, you estimated at 500 and the transfer tax at 365?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
That's based on that in the contract.
And whatever your legal fees will be, okay, which would be into the other cost to the IDA. So, all right, IDA members. The question for you this morning is, do you wish to accept the offer from Dave Huckins and Dr. Verma of $90,000 to purchase the property on the south side of 107? If so, would there be any stipulations or conditions you would like to put onto that acceptance? Or do you prefer to reject the offer and keep the property listed for sale? Those would be the options for consideration. And let's open it up for discussion.
I would like, Joe Semyon, I'd like to move forward just the way it is. Mr. Huckins and his group seems like they have done a lot to get this thing up and running. They're going to be putting in a substantial amount of money. We've had other offers. One got pulled back. Others were pretty low. So I think his $90,000 offer is fine, and I don't think we need to add any contingencies on our side.
Any other comments? Dave, we had discussed when we were in the field, reaching out to the town of Perth and getting kind of an informal feel from the planning board as to their reaction to what you're proposing in terms of would they be willing to approve that use? Did you have that opportunity to touch base with the chairman?
I did. He seemed very positive, liked the idea of the building getting used, or the buildings getting used. He knows it's been, sitting there a while. I mean, at least 9 years since it's been winterized. So at least since the top two buildings have been winterized. So I think he, overall, his response was very positive. Obviously it wasn't a formal submission or anything, just a general conversation. But overall, I think he felt positive about the site being utilized and, working with local farmers to create more revenue stream for them.
Okay. That's good, folks. We had just suggested to Dave that he have an informal conversation with the chairman of the planning board, just to make sure that he got a positive feedback. Didn't want to go and, sell the property to him only to find out that for whatever reasons, the planning board would not look favorably upon what was being proposed out there. But according to Dave, he did get a positive reaction, so I think that's good news. And hopefully, when he does officially go to the planning board, they will give him a formal site plan approval for his proposed project. So, any other questions or any other comments?
Yeah, Jim, Dave Demore here. I've got a question of Dave. Dave, I mean, we understand that this is a startup endeavor for you and Dr. Verma and your investors. And I think we're all hopeful that this is something that can really grab hold. You're framing out a 2 to 3 year period of time of projected losses on the front end, the startup phase of the business. Notwithstanding what any of us could predict for the future, is there some sense of what might happen should the business not be able to achieve its goals, within that window? You're projecting an outlay of cash to acquire the property. What happens if the business doesn't take off and, you have that property? How would you look to manage any of that kind of unfortunate circumstance? And please don't misunderstand me. I'm not hopeful for such a thing. I'm just concerned. It is a property that we have a lot of vested interest in making sure that it gets developed and is a secure location for your business into the future. But if that business can't make it happen there, we would have a vested interest in what happens to the property after that. Can you speak a little bit to that, your thoughts? And maybe I'm asking more than is possible because I'm asking you to project into the future here a little bit. But have you given any thought to what happens in the event of not meeting your intended goal?
Well, I am a firm believer, that the two things that are going to get you are death and taxes. My general, this property is currently assessed for $1 million. And, if that, we've had conversations with the town of Perth tax assessor, and, he's indicated that obviously that it's an old assessment and no one has paid attention to it, just because it's a tax exempt property currently. So now, if my sale is approved, I would be reaching out to the assessor again, just to get a letter of what we can expect the assessment to be next tax season. So, if that assessment is reasonable, I feel confident, we'll be able to carry the expenses on this site. Also the other thing I mentioned, death, we'll, both Dr. Verma and myself will be purchasing an extra life insurance policy, as any equity partner would be required to purchase, so that we would have some capital, extra capital, if it happens. Important items on our side to ensure our success, along with the same protections for the site as anyone else in that Tryon Technology Park. So, we want the same zoning and the same support, including the road ownership. So we don't want any structure, any structure that's different from the rest of the park. So we very much want to be a part of the Tryon Technology Park as a whole, and we want to help with the success of the park as a whole. So we feel that we'll be able to help you attract more people to the park, and you're going to gain some momentum by approving our sale. So if you back us up and give us, the town of Perth gives us a reasonable assessment, takes over the road, gives us the same zoning as the rest of the park, we feel it's going to be a success, and the rest of the park is going to be a success. If for some reason, we're not turning a profit after 3 years, then we may look to sell to, a group larger than us. So, we feel, with what's going on, with your main business that's in that park right now, they appear to be in a very good position. And we feel that, if we come in and maybe, sounds like you have some interest in some of the other buildings. If they come in, your momentum will carry and everything will be positive.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dave, Tim Munn, I just have a couple of other questions again too, and echo Dave's comments. And certainly we would hope that you're successful in getting this up and off the ground. With the beginning of organic farming in the area, and I know that obviously nationally this is a big industry. Are there obstacles to the farmers that you've had conversations with in terms of getting up and running? I mean, you mentioned the additional costs involved with organic farming. I'm not sure exactly what that would be, but do they tell you, are there certain grants or funding that's available to help them do that? In other words, if they may express that they want to get into this to this market, but is it cost prohibitive for them to do that? Just curious of your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, organic food, people spend more money on it. But, with what's going on right now with, the virus and, we feel that organic, food and medicine is going to do nothing but, the popularity of it is going to increase, even if it's a little more expensive. So I think we just need to take some baby steps with local farmers and not bite off too large of parcels of land to start with. So, just as an example, if you have a farmer with with 400 acres, initially we would, maybe ask for 10% of their crops to be organic and start the process of, for that. I do have contacts at Farm Credit over near Cobleskill. They're always willing to help with helping farmers restructure, and carry their expenses. So, I do have a background in financing, and, I do refer business to local banks, as well as I broker through national banks. So, I feel I'm, from a lending perspective, I'm able to help some of these farmers get through a tough time here. And, if you talk to them, they're going to tell you that they're really taking a hit, with the dairy industry right now. So they're all looking for a different business model. And, they all need to restructure.
Scott Hensey has a question. Mr. Huckins?
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, as a county planning director here, are the farmers that you reached out to so far, are they Fulton County farmers, or have you reached down into Montgomery County and some other areas down that way?
We've talked with Montgomery County as well, but we've talked to basically 2 large farmers in Fulton County and one pretty large farmer in Montgomery County.
Okay, thank you.
But I mean, there's also the Amish as well. I mean, if that's a whole different ball game. The Amish have been doing it a lot longer than anyone else. But you have a very large Amish community in Montgomery County.
I think I'd like to echo Joe Simeone's assertion of support for the project. I think based on what we've heard, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the proposed offer and get them to a place where they can start doing what they've got to do.
I second that motion.
Is there any further discussion, questions, or comments on this matter? Having none, we're going to take a roll call vote on a motion to accept the offer of Dave Huckins and Dr. Verma to purchase the property on the south side of 107 for the sum of $90,000. Let's take a roll call vote on that. All right. Dave Demore,
Aye.
Joe Semyon,
Aye.
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Jane Kelly. Jane Kelly.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mike Fitzgerald
Aye.
and Tim Munn.
Aye.
Okay, the motion is approved and we will be moving forward. Dave, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
We will be in touch and trying to get that purchase contract executed and we can start moving forward.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay and learn more about what we do, or you're welcome to depart now and go and get back to work.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dave.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, moving on with our agenda, folks. We're going into new business. First item of business is proposed amendments to our uniform tax exemption policy. Back in January, the board approved an amendment to the UTEP, as it's called, by adopting a policy to not grant real property tax exemptions to solar and wind energy projects. And if you recall, that was done in response to the Board of Supervisors opting out of 487 of the real property tax law. Unfortunately, when we did that, we did not address whether the IDA board would still be willing to offer sales and mortgage recording tax exemptions to solar projects. So the proposed amendment to the UTEP would be to clarify that even though the IDA board is not going to grant pilots because of its being consistent with the Board of Supervisors, that it's still willing to offer sales tax exemptions and mortgage recording tax exemptions to solar projects. And so that is what is being proposed for dealing with commercial solar projects. The second proposed amendment to the UTEP deals with revising Section 3, one of the general policies in the UTEP. And right now, what it says is in order to receive any tax exemption, real property, sales tax, or mortgage recording tax, that the project must create a significant number of new jobs or retain a number of new jobs. That's it. And when looking at other IDAs around the state, found that all other IDAs have much broader criteria for granting tax exemptions. And so what I'm proposing is that we follow in that format and broaden the number of criteria that you could point to as a basis for granting a tax exemptions for a particular project. And so I listed items A through M that were in the agenda, ranging from the nature of the project, the nature of the property before the project began, the economic condition of the area, the extent to which it will create jobs, the estimated value of tax exemptions, the economic impact of the project, and a host of others. and it would just broaden the criteria that you could use as the basis for granting tax exemptions to a particular project. So those are the two proposed changes to the uniform tax exemption policy that I'm presenting to you this morning. And does anyone have any questions on either of those two proposed amendments? One, to clarify that you would be willing to grant, still grant sales and mortgage recording tax exemptions to solar projects. And two, secondly, to broaden the criteria for what projects you would be willing to grant any tax exemptions to.
Jim, this is Todd. In reference to change number 1, is it necessary for us to make that change and be that specific? Currently, it doesn't say that we can't allow those exemptions.
I think it's, in talking with Kara, it's believed that it would be the appropriate thing to do. Kara, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I think you just want to specify that that you're going to allow these types of exemptions for a solar project because you're specifically not allowing a real property tax exemption.
Just to add, make sure there's clarity to the to what we're doing, what we're willing to do for solar projects, Todd. That's really all this is about, is adding clarity.
Jim, just some historical background, since it predates me, but was there a specific reason that the county didn't want to provide an exemption for solar and wind projects before?
The Board of Supervisors chose to opt out of 487, Mike, because of a couple of things. One, it was believed that there were that some prime developable land was being allocated for solar projects as opposed to, you know, developable projects that could generate some tax base. And secondly, they were having issues with dealing with these solar companies in terms of negotiating pilots. And so those were the two primary reasons that the Board of Supervisors, is my understanding, that they chose to opt out of 487. And what 487 is, it basically says that solar projects can receive a 15-year tax exemption, all right, on real property taxes. And so Fulton County has opted out of that, resulting in solar projects having to pay full county taxes yes, full county taxes, correct.
Jim,
That's helpful.
Jim, that's just for county taxes. Other taxing jurisdictions may be afforded the opportunity to offer pilots of their own right, correct?
Correct. Each taxing entity makes its own decision on whether to stay in or opt out of 487.
So the county or opting out of that 487, it really isn't a blanket policy for every entity, every taxing jurisdiction in the county.
The county can't make decisions relative to a town or a school district tax. Okay?
Yep.
Any other questions on the proposed amendments? Hearing none, is someone willing to make a motion to either approve or disapprove?
Joe Simeon, I'd like to make a motion to approve both amendments.
Okay, Joe, thank you.
Welcome.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it, Jim.
I'll give it to Mike.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay. Let's take a roll call vote on the motion to approve the two proposed amendments to the IDA's uniform tax exemption policy. Dave Demore,
Aye.
Joe Semyon,
Aye.
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Jane Kelly,
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald,
Aye.
and Tim Munn.
Aye.
The motion is approved. Next on the agenda is the proposed Nexus Renewable Solar Project. Nexus Renewables, based in Canada, is proposing a solar project on a 29-acre parcel of land that the IDA owns that is adjacent to the Tryon Technology Park. Again, for point of clarity, the 29 acres is not part of the Tryon Technology Park, but it's part of the 515 acres that the IDA took title to as part of the transfer of Tryon over to the IDA. Nexus is proposing a 6.8 megawatt solar project. The total project cost is estimated to be $10,500,000. And the project would include the installation of 980 freestanding tracking solar tables and a host of other things that were listed in your agenda. Nexus would pay for all costs associated with developing, constructing, and operating the project. The IDA would incur no costs. And the IDA would generate two forms of revenue, a land lease and a solar energy generated payment based upon the amount of kilowatt hours of solar power that was generated. Nexus has submitted a project application to the IDA requesting two benefits, sales tax exemptions and mortgage recording tax exemptions. And the total benefits requested would exceed $100,000. And since that is the case, a public hearing must be held on this project application. The application requests no real property tax exemptions from the IDA. Nexus Renewables has requested a pilot from the Broadalbin Perth Central School District. And that is something they are working on directly with that school district. And so it's proposed to have a public hearing on the project application to be held Tuesday, July 28th at 10 a.m. in the Town of Johnstown Town Hall. And attached to, actually, I emailed to everybody yesterday afternoon a revised resolution authorizing the scheduling of the public hearing and looking to have a motion made to adopt this resolution that would schedule the public hearing for this project on Tuesday, July 28th at 10 a.m. in Town of Johnstown Town Hall. Is there anyone have any questions so far on the need for the public hearing on this proposed application?
Jim, just a question. Do you have a breakdown of what the benefits would be between the sales tax and the mortgage recording tax?
The estimated sales tax is about $840,000, and the estimated mortgage recording tax would be about $80,000. And that's based upon their estimate of $10.5 million of purchases that would be subject to sales tax charges. Okay. Okay, would someone make a motion to adopt the resolution to schedule a public hearing on this proposed project?
I'll make that
I'll
motion.
make that motion.
Todd Rulison. I couldn't catch who. Is someone willing to second?
Second.
Jane, thank you, Jane. All right, we're going to be taking a roll call vote to adopt this resolution to schedule a public hearing related to the Nexus Renewables project. Dave Demore,
Aye.
Joe Semyon,
Aye.
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Jane Kelly,
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald,
Aye.
and Tim Munn.
Aye.
Motion is approved to schedule the public hearing. All right. Moving on, the project structure for this is the Nexus Renewable will lease the property to the IDA, and the IDA is going to lease it back. Kara, is that still the case?
Yeah, I actually spoke with Nexus's counsel yesterday about the structure and how we're gonna work on that since we're in ownership of the property already. We're working out those details, and it's my understanding that, well, when you get to the next part, there'll be like a master lease and then a couple of subleases. So I did speak with Mike Logan, who is working with Dan Spitzer on this file yesterday. So we're talking about the structure, but it's going to be similar to that, that section.
Okay, very good. The project is also going to involve a subdivision of the IDA's parcel. The IDA's parcel is about 62 acres in the town of Johnstown. Again, they're looking to lease 29 acres. They want to subdivide those 29 acres into 4 separate parcels because they are actually going to be developing 4 smaller solar projects that combined will total about 6.88 megawatts of power. So this project, again, will also include a subdivision, and that is being presented to the Town of Johnstown Planning Board for their review and approval. Next item is seeker. Nexus Renewables has submitted a full Part 1 environmental assessment form to us. It identifies 7 potential involved agencies. I sent that environmental assessment form out to everyone to review, and it's pretty straightforward in terms of the information presented in there. And so what the motion being proposed for today would be to start the seeker process by having the IDA propose itself to serve as the lead agency in conducting a coordinated seeker review and to authorize distributing the EAF to all involved agencies, asking them to respond in their support of having the IDA serve as the seeker lead agency. This is kind of the standard process that we've used over the years. And so that is the proposed motion that presenting here today. So any questions on what on the seeker process?
Jim, does the county planning board have any involvement in that too, or no?
They will. They'll have a 239 review to conduct. The town planning board will act on that tonight and forward a recommendation or forward that request to the county planning board. They meet next Tuesday. And so the 239 review will be conducted because the proposed project will border the town of Johnstown, town of Perth boundary. All right, and would someone be willing to make the motion to dealing with seeker?
I'll make that motion, Jim.
Dave Demore, is there a second to that?
I'll second it, Jim.
Todd Rulison. Any further questions or comments? Roll call vote. Tim Munn,
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Jane Kelly,
Aye.
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Joe Semyon,
Aye.
Dave Demore.
Aye.
The motion is approved. Okay, the next thing we have to do is conduct an evaluation of the project application. And in the application, project application, it says that the will utilize certain criteria for evaluating whether to provide benefits. And it says, will the project create or retain jobs? What are the wages to be paid for the new jobs? What's the total private sector involvement? How much local labor will be utilized during construction? And how much will property values and property tax revenues increase for local taxing jurisdictions? Okay, and so what the application says is that the project will create 2 part-time jobs. The wages will be $10,000 annually. The total private sector investment is significant, talking about $10,500,000 of private sector investment. How much local labor? Again, the application says there will be 25 construction jobs created. And the last question was, how much will property values and property taxes increase for local taxing jurisdictions? And the answer to that is there's going to be some significant property tax revenues generated, because the town of Johnstown is projecting to assess the improvements on the property at about $4.2 million. They have a formula for assessing solar projects that's based upon a certain dollar value per megawatt. And at the 6.8 megawatts, it comes out to be this number. So the question to you folks is the private sector investment and the fact that this project is going to generate significant property tax revenues for school, county, and town of Johnstown taxes enough of a basis for you to grant financial benefits to this project?
Well, Jim, just in our prior discussion, didn't we discuss that this parcel was not part of the technology park because it basically
Correct.
deemed that it's not of any value to be developed for commercial use?
That is correct.
Whether it be a building or another business, so.
Yep. So we're taking a fairly useless piece of property and in getting a $10.5 million private sector investment and thousands of dollars of property tax revenues being generated from it. And again, I think that's the basis for you folks saying, yes, we're comfortable granting property tax or financial incentives to this project.
Do we have revised prices as to how much they're paying each year for this lease with us? Or is it going to be 25 years still also?
The lease is 25 years. We'll discuss that in executive, Joe.
Okay, sorry.
Okay,
Thank you.
fair enough.
Yep.
Is there consensus that the private
Yes,
sector
I
investment?
believe that there is.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Is there?
This certainly meets the
we have
criteria.
consensus.
Yes.
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 Very good.
Yes.
All right. Next item. A waiver of legal representation. Hudson Russ is representing Nexus Renewables on its proposed solar project. Hudson Russ has also served as IDA bond counsel on previous projects. And Hudson Russ contacted me last week and asked if it would be okay for them to represent Nexus Renewables and still be open to representing the IDA on future projects. I have no issue with them doing this on this particular matter. Joe Scott has been a good partner with the IDA on bond counsel projects over the years, and don't think we need to risk losing him because they're going to be his renewable energy division of his firm in New York City is representing Nexus Renewables on this project. But it's not my decision, it's yours. If you're okay with it, I would just have the notes reflect that is the case. If you do not want them representing Nexus Renewables or don't want them doing both, then we would have to give them up as Hudson Russ, and they'd have to close the file on them serving as bond counsel for us. That would not be my recommendation. Mine is to allow this to happen.
Jim, to be clear, we're talking about two different business components of Hudson Russ.
Correct.
We've got a bond counsel, and then Nexus Renewables would be hiring from Hudson Russ's renewable energy division.
Yep.
Separate offices, you know,
Separate offices.
and while they carry the same business title, different people operating each of those services. I have no objection to allowing them or us to use Hudson Russ, just because of the distinction in services provided.
Kara, do you have an opinion?
I don't think there's any issue there.
Okay, thank you.
Is there consensus?
Yes.
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 Fine, let them do it.
Okay. The notes will reflect such. And lastly, again, the Nexus is applied to the town of Johnstown for a site plan, special use permit, and subdivision approval. The town planning board meeting meets tonight, and they will start that review of this project at their meeting tonight. Alrighty, last item on the open agenda is talking about proposed sewer district number 4. The county has hired Environmental Design Partnership to create a sewer district for the Hales Mills Road extension area all the way out to Tryon. A county water district has already been created, but work on the sewer district was put on hold pending a commitment from the state to transfer ownership of the sewer line and pump station serving Hale Creek. New York State has indicated that they're going to be moving forward with that, and so work on the sewer district has commenced. And once that sewer district is created, the sewer lines and pump stations at Tryon will be deeded over from the IDA to the sewer district, and the sewer district will operate and maintain those from that point forward. And as I mentioned to you in an email recently, with the completion of the new electric service at Tryon, an electric meter will start operating at the pump station. And until that sewer district is created, that monthly electric bill will be sent to the IDA. But once the district is created, the invoices will be sent to the sewer district. Don't know what the costs are going to be. We'll find that out once we get our first bill. But just wanted to make you aware of that, and we'll keep you posted on the creation of that district. Hopefully, it'll be done by the end of this year. Okay, I'm now asking for a motion to go into executive session to discuss the proposed acquisition sale of real property.
I'll make that motion.
Dave, second.
Second that motion.
Jane?
Yeah.
Roll call vote. Dave Demore,
Aye.
Joe Semyon,
Aye.
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Jane Kelly, Mike Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Tim Munn.
Aye.
All right, we are in executive session. Scott has to do a
Let
couple
me,
things to get us there.
So what I'm going to do here first,
Second.
Gotta say, it was nice to be heard this meeting instead of last meeting. I switched venues. Of course, you guys heard me talk a lot this time. You probably want me to be muted. Don't be laughing, Greg. Come on now.
All right, roll call vote to go out of executive. Dave Demore,
Aye.
Joe Semyon,
Aye.
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Tim Munn.
Aye.
Okay, and then a motion to close the meeting.
I'll make that
Rolling?
motion.
Mike, second.
A second.
Motion to close, Dave Demore,
Aye.
Joe Semyon,
Yes.
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Tim Munn.
Aye.
Our next meeting will be held on Tuesday, August 11th, unless there is a need to call a special meeting, which we'll know more about once we get those revised numbers in. So
When do you think we're going to be able to meet back at the building again? Just curious. No one knows, but.
well, technically we could meet now, Joe.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
The challenge is the dynamics of the room.
Mm-hmm.
And that we can't fit all 7 IDA members and myself at the table and maintain 6 foot spacing. Okay. So we're trying to figure out, is there a way, we'd have to have people set separately along the sides of the room.
Right.
And it's just, I don't know how conducive that is, because if you're not sitting at a table, you can't have an agenda in front of you, or you have to hold it. So it's more that than anything else right now.
Okay. Or the big room downstairs? Would that be a better setup?
It's the same situation.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have the technology downstairs either, unfortunately,
Okay.
to use it. I mean, the other option as well is, I mean, if you wanted to, some of you could come in through Zoom, some of you could be sitting here. That's, split it up if that's preferred too.
Okay. And then we should also maybe just check up with Joe Gillis, because I know the last 2 times he's had some technical difficulties.
We did with that. We got it all cleared up.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yep. And Scott worked that through with Joe, but unfortunately Joe was probably at the fire today. So
Right. I would assume that too. Yeah.
no, we did get that. Right after the last meeting, we got that cleared up with Joe.
All right. Good.
All right, folks.
Thanks,
Thank you.
folks. Great meeting.
All right, we'll be in touch. Thanks, Greg.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Talk to you later.
All right.